This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks and welcome to our trade blast for today. As you know, the trade blast is primarily targeted at our Patreon supporters, but we appreciate all of you that choose to join us that are not in that zone as well. If you enjoy, please take time to like and subscribe. So, our focus today is the fact that obviously the last couple of days was really big. There's a lot of money made by folks as the stimulus package came in, and we're currently in the zone where the House is reviewing how and if they're going to respond to the stimulus. So, at issue is what to cover today. The answer is that the markets, including Tesla, are relatively tepid. Tesla's down maybe 7 points. We usually expect somewhere around a 50-point move from Tesla, possibly 100. It's hard to see why it would move now on very little news. And so I suppose the trade blast for today lurks in the realm of probably not huge movements. And that would make sense based on the fact that literally the driver in the form of new government news is non-existent. And other than discussions of Tesla's factory starting to produce medical equipment, there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of waiting news to force the stock one way or the other. Because of all this, I actually thought about not doing a trade blast today because we just didn't have a lot of meat to put on the table. The one thing I did feel like I wanted to cover is just the idea that there's something called trading and there's something called investing. So one of the things we talked about kind of at the start of our work with Trade Blast was just the fact that when you have a stock like Tesla that has the potential to move 20-25% in a day, and can move 10% in a day, you're doing a year's or a couple of 6 months worth of what the average movement might be for any stock in the market in 1 or 2 days. So it kind of means that you want to sort of blend in some trading principles or trading process into your investing, because you're kind of mixing that up in the stock, and it makes sense to mix that up in terms of what you're doing. Part of the reason I was sort of reticent today is that I went through an interesting sort of trade process over the last couple of days. In particular, made just a little money on some trading I did, but I was really surprised because part of the trading process is that you kind of have no opinion. And what I mean by that is that there's a concept called the trend is your friend. So when you're trading, you're really there to ride any and all trends towards profitability, and embracing that profitability process as a trend in and of itself. And so what this means then is that you really can't afford to have opinions like I had for the last couple of days, which is like, well, wait a second, there's a lot of bad news there. There's a shutdown factory, there's lower sales driven by what's going on, etc. So I just felt like there are all these variables that really, from an investing standpoint, influence where the stock was and going. The flip side argument from the trading side is that thou cannot have opinions while the stocks are in motion, particularly if you have a huge stimulus package driving the market. So basically, you either kind of have, if you're in the trading space and the trade is going away from you, you either have to sit on the sideline or grin and bear it and join. And I think I really did the grin and bear it join plan. Tends to be way too conservative to make any money in that space. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a warning to those of you who are sort of easing your way into trade heavy. The line I heard from one of my trading buddies was, he said, look, once you're in a trading zone and Tesla's an excellent stock to trade, your job is to ride the trend. Tesla is good for between 50 and 100 point move per day, and your agenda is simply to get 50 points of that on a daily basis, or 30 or 40 points of it from an option standpoint, and enjoy that amount of gain that you can enjoy either from the puts or the calls that you're sort of working with for that day. So I think the logic is sound. It's pretty easy to understand. And when you're watching folks make $50,000 to $300,000 off of that process, it incentivizes one to sort of develop a command of that process. So, so literally that's the core logic of, some of the heavy trading that goes on with Tesla is literally that Tesla is good for some pretty big swings in price. And if you're either right or wrong, so if you're able to ride one side, the side of the train that Tesla's on for the day, you can make a huge amount of money on the options trading side. And for those who own the stock, they can make money too, particularly if it's on the upbound run there. So yes, I will admit I'm a little bit struggling with the rudiments of good fundamentals when it comes to being sort of trade focused. The next thing that's coming up is sort of positions. Most of the people in the group that I'm trading with are on the put side of things in terms of discussion right now. We've had a nice run. There's no heavy information basis for a bigger upside for Tesla right now. So therefore, we're kind of in, that's kind of the mode we're in currently. So I would say that currently, I don't have any huge other input to say than it is worth understanding both the concept of the trend is your friend and how to implement it profitably, because it does take some courage to get out there on trends that don't fit your investment style. That also brings up another point I thought was really great, which is when it comes to stocks and investing, your personality can really come through based on the fact that you've read the books and they're great fundamentals and you're implementing them. When you're in the trading zone, what I found fascinating is that there's a phenomenon where your personality can sort of bleed out in how you trade. So for example, the folks that I'm observing closely tend to be on a very short 4 or 5 days before their options expire zone, and you have to have a lot of action to pay off, and they've been lucky to find the right side and benefit in the short term. Obviously, there are other folks that leaves themselves a couple of 3 weeks, a month, whatever it may be. So there are all these different styles that might fit the type of investing you're doing. So I just think your personality comes out because you can pick the style and invest along that process without having to take the risks of folks who have a different style, even if it's even if you might think, hey, that's more profitable than the process that I've chosen. So, the big thing that we're sort of in mind right now on relative to Tesla is the fact that we're a week away from the announcement of the number of cars produced and sold for this quarter. And, because of the losses Tesla's taking on the solar city or electric power side, obviously all the profits tend to roll out of one side of the business, and this kind of in general makes sense. So what I wanted to review here is the fact that we do have a significant event coming up next week, and I think there'll be a setup to those numbers in terms of Tesla stock starting to move one way or the other. And then after those numbers come out, I expect major league action afterwards. The way things land this week is the 3rd is actually a Friday and next week. So once the numbers come out from Elon Musk, I think it might be the end of the day, but it possibly could be during the day of the market. I expect wild movement of the stock one way or the other, but also some setup movement that might occur 1 or 2 days prior. So this is something news-wise that's coming in off the beach that's, I think, is noteworthy. At any rate, thanks for taking time to join us once again. As usual, we want to mention our health tips. Don't forget 25 leg lifts per leg to strengthen the quad muscles, I encourage you to not go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours, to reduce the chance that you'll have acid indigestion. Also wanted to encourage you to consider a 5-2 or other diet that's in the fasting realm. And then finally for today, I guess we wanted to recommend maybe 1 or 2 times a week of weightlifting as a way to strengthen or reduce bone or increase bone density based on not losing as much because you're doing the weightlifting. So at any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, hej då, Swedish, au revoir, French, lehitro, Hebrew, choda hafez, Farsi, Zdravstvuyte, Russian, ni hao ma, Chinese, hello, do widzenia, Polish, goodbye. And we also want to say in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us today. May you have a prosperous trading investing day. Thanks and bye for now.